Hello everyone. In our series of video, in this video here, we'll be discussing how to tackle a special order question. So now to start with, defining a special order. A special order is basically where you have a manufacturer receive a bulk order from someone. Now for an order to be qualified as a special order, first of all, you have to understand that the quantity has to be significantly larger than that company would be expecting to sell to the regular customer. The second is because the quantity is so much larger, they would expect a lower selling price. Now, how would you do a special order question? Regardless of what question you have, if you follow the 5 steps that I've got written on the board right now, you should find it quite straightforward to answer any special order question. So, the first step is to calculate the contribution margin, which we are going to go through all of these steps in a few seconds. The second step is to determine if you have any excess capacity. After that, you're going to be calculating your opportunity quantity, if any. Then you're going to calculate the opportunity cost, and finally, you will have to calculate your incremental revenue. Now, the first step, how do we calculate contribution margin? If you remember from what we did previously in Module 1, contribution margin is calculated as the selling price take away the variable cost. Again, a reminder that contribution margin is always calculated per unit. So in this case here, let us go ahead and calculate the contribution margin for our normal sale. I'm putting N here to denote normal. So that is where the company is selling to its regular customer. So if we look at the information given in the question, this company has capacity to make 5,000 shirts. At present, due to demand, they are only operating at 80% capacity, which means that they are not producing 5,000 shirts, but 80% of that. The selling price to their regular customer for each shirt is $50. The variable cost is $20, and the total fixed cost is $90,000. Now, that company received a special order for 500 shirts at a selling price of $30 per shirt. The question is, should that special order be accepted? So, the selling price from the normal sale, which we found to be $50, and our variable cost is, again, $20. So that will give us a contribution margin of $30. Let us go ahead and calculate the contribution margin for our special order as well. Now, for the special order, the selling price is not $50 anymore, but it is now $30 per unit. So that's where we have the 30. The variable cost would remain unchanged, obviously. So take away the 20, and that will give us $10. Now, just as a side note, if you're doing a question and right from this step, you see that the selling price is lower than the variable cost, straight away you know that this is not going to bring you any money, so you will be rejecting the project. But in this case here, let us move forward. So that is the first step. The second step, now we need to determine if we have an excess capacity. So right now, the question tells us that we are operating at 80% capacity, which means that our excess capacity will be 20% of their total production of 5,000 units, which will give us 1,000 shirts. So at the moment, yes, the company does have an excess capacity. Moving on to the third part, which is to determine if we have an opportunity quantity. Now, before we solve this part here, it is important for us to understand what is meant by an opportunity quantity or an opportunity cost. So an opportunity quantity is the amount that you have to forego in order to meet the special order quantity. So as an example, if let's say, for example, you are selling markers, right? And you've got 10 markers on hand, right? Someone wants to purchase 3 of these, so you have 7 left. Let's say that you get a special order for 4 markers. The question is, do you have enough on hand to sell the 4 markers to the new person? If the answer to that is yes, you don't have any opportunity quantity. But what if you had 10 markers, someone wants to purchase 3, and someone else come and say, hold on, I want to purchase all 10. So in that case, you will have to forego selling from the first person, the one who wanted to purchase 3, in order to sell to the second person. So basically, the opportunity cost here is what you have to give up on. So in this case here, how do we work out if we have an opportunity quantity? Let us first determine how much is our available capacity. So from step 2, we've calculated our available capacity or excess capacity to be 1,000 units. The special order quantity from the question, someone wanted to purchase 500 shirts. So basically what we are saying here is the opportunity quantity is going to be 0. Why? Because you already have enough capacity. You have 1,000 units that is not being used to cater for that special order of 500 units. So your opportunity quantity is 0. Now, how do you determine the opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is calculated as your opportunity quantity multiplied by the contribution margin of the normal sale. Now, I need you to pay attention to this, because this is where a lot of students tend to go wrong. Instead of using the contribution of margin of the normal sale, which we calculated to be $30, some students tend to use the contribution margin of the special order. Understand that opportunity cost is what you are giving up on. In this case, you are giving up on the normal sale to meet the special order. So you need to use what you are giving up on. So applying this to this question here, the opportunity quantity we've calculated to be 0, the contribution margin was 30, so nonetheless the opportunity cost is 0, it's nothing. So now we need to work out our incremental gain. So if we were to accept that special order, are we going to have more profit? That is the question. So how do you calculate your incremental gain? First of all, let's work out the revenue from the special order. So we know that we are selling 500 units at the selling price is $30 per unit. So that will give us a total revenue of $15,000. From that, we need to take away our variable cost, which is again 500 units multiplied by a variable cost of $20 per unit. That will give us $10,000. Now, the question here gives us a fixed cost. You should understand that we are not going to take into account the fixed cost here, because the fixed cost is what we call a sunk cost. What does that mean? It means that regardless of whether ABC Limited decide to accept that special order or not, that fixed cost will have to be paid. So that's why it's a sunk cost, you don't take it into account. Okay, so you less the variable cost, and lastly, you're going to less your opportunity cost, which we have calculated here in step 4 to be 0. So our answer is 15,000, take away 10,000, take away 0. We have $5,000. And that's a positive number, which means that this is a profit. So which means that your conclusion will be to accept the special order. Make sure that whenever you do a special order question, you always have your conclusion. So in this case here, you will say, we are going to accept because you have a profit of $5,000. Now, before we conclude this video, I wanted to now change this question to, let's say, instead of having an order for 500 shirts, we now have an order for 1,200 shirts. So the first step here will be exactly the same, nothing different. The contribution margin for the normal sale will be the same. The contribution margin for the special order will be the same. The excess capacity again will not change. We still have an excess capacity of 1,000 shirts. Now moving on here, what we will have, and I'm going to use a different color here so that you can see that this is the answer to when changing the question. Instead of having 500 units, we now have 1,200 units. So our available capacity is 1,000 units. The special order quantity is now 1,200 units. So if you understand this here, what this means is you have 1,000 shirts sitting idle there that no one has purchased. So this is spare. So you could sell that to anyone. However, this person here does not want to purchase 1,000 shirts. The person wants to purchase 1,200 shirts. So which means that in order to satisfy this special order, you will have to take 200 from a different customer in order to make that total as 1,200 and sell the special order. In other words, you're going to have an opportunity quantity of 200 units. So in this case here, we have an opportunity quantity. Now, applying what we just calculated to step 4, which is the opportunity quantity of 200 multiplied by the contribution margin for the normal sale, which is $30. So that will give us an opportunity cost of $6,000. Now, let's move on to our 5th step and work out our incremental gain. So the revenue from the special order is now going to be calculated as 1,200 units at $30 each. So that will give us $36,000 less the variable cost, which is again at 1,200 units multiplied by $20, which will give us $24,000, and less the opportunity cost, which we have calculated in step 4 to be $6,000. So what do we have? $36,000, take away $24,000, take away $6,000 will give us $6,000 as a profit. Again, that's a positive answer. So long that the answer that you get is positive, your conclusion will be to accept the special order. And this is how you will be working out a special order question. And as I said, regardless of what type of question you get, if you just follow these steps, these 5 steps, you will be okay doing any question. Thank you very much for your attention.